Good morning to each and everyone, especially to you, Mrs. Fernandez. Today, I am going to present to you the lesson 10, which is all about using graphic organizers. As a future teacher, we always think what teaching strategies could capture the attention and interest of the students. It is very challenging to plan out what could be the best for the students' effective learning, especially when teaching social studies, wherein some students think of it as boring and exhausting subject because there are a lot of information that they need to learn. It also has complex concepts, ideas, and information that must be significantly retained to the minds of every student. And one of the best teaching strategies to aid this is to use graphic organizers where effective and active involvement and comprehensible grasping of necessary information can be acquired. But before we will dig into, let us talk about the major breakthrough of graphic organizers. The major breakthrough of graphic organizers happened in the 1960s when Osobel theorized how many concepts become facilitating factors that influence learning. He purported that the brain organizes and stores information in a systematic manner revolving around existing schema. The schema already contained a certain knowledge and therefore arranged in a schematic framework that makes information easier to comprehend and remember. So, these Osobel's theories effectively support learner engagement while learning. Most importantly, the processing of new information for meaning and longer retention. So, what are graphic organizers? This is a kind of teaching strategy that provide a visual representation in developing and summarizing students' learning components. These help structure disjointed information by creating patterns that represent the relationship or interconnectedness of ideas. These enable learners to see information in a pattern that uses labels in which learners can easily comprehend. The main function of graphic organizers is to present information in precise ways to highlight relationships and organization of concepts. So why use graphic organizers? The number one reason for that is it facilitates critical and creative thinking. Graphic organizers allow the learners to focus only on the highlighted essential components. It enables them to find necessary connections that could unveil answers to problems and issues in daily living. Number two is that it organizes information. The human mind is designed to store information using a series of networks. As we live day by day, we encounter various experiences which contribute to what we know. Graphic organizers give us an opportunity to organize and evaluate the existing and new knowledge that we encounter. Third is that it shows relationship. One good relationship example that is always used is the broad to specific relationship. It is sometimes called as part-whole relationship, which identifies the number and its components. Graphic organizers also allow self-directed learning. The good thing about graphic organizers is that it can be used for independent learning among the learners. This is because it is much easier for the learners to grasp information and see connections. Graphic organizer also encourages interaction. It engages the learners to participate rather in class activities since they appreciate its visual nature. The motivation to learn comes next. And the last one is that we use graphic organizers because it is a form of assessment in which teachers can assess learning both before and after the discussion. It could be both done in informative and summative assessments. These reasons make us believe that using graphic organizers in teaching reveals many positive outcomes. However, it is not that easy to do so. In order to transform the instruction to the next level, we have here the following recommended procedures. So number 1, familiarize yourself with different types of graphic organizers. So, teachers must have prior knowledge of different types of graphic organizers such as Venn diagram, mind map, concept map, etc. Number 2, explain to students why graphic organizers are and why they are useful in learning. So it is important that students will be aware about graphic organizers and that they will know how interactive the class would be using graphic organizers. Number 3, present the specific graphic organizer for a topic. Point out its subject and organizational framework. Like for example, we will present a graphic organizer that is called a concept map. So in its framework, we can be able to have different shapes where students see connections and analyze relationships among concepts. And then, we must also use examples to illustrate the use of some graphic organizers, and then assign the graphic organizer as an individual, paired, or group activity. And finally, review students' work. Generate classroom discussion on the effective use of graphic organizers. And at this point, we will explore to the 8 types of graphic organizers for social studies. The 8 types of graphic organizers are relevant in promoting effective social studies education. So first, we have assume and anticipate. This form of graphic organizer is best for formative assessment where teachers evaluate the schema of the learners on a certain topic. This could be done in a form of opinion-seeking activity where the teachers introduce a topic or issue that learners have to answer. As the discussion unfolds, the teachers and learners return to their answers for validation. And the most common example here is the what you know, what you want to know, and what you learn, or the KWL chart. K for know, W for want, and L for learn. And this is primarily answered by the students. So I made an example. This is about culture using the KWL chart. What I want to know is the prior or background knowledge of students of certain topic, and what I want to know is their purpose, goal, or an objective that they want to acquire about the topic. And what I learned are the information that they have acquired from the topic. Next is the position and pattern. This type of graphic organizer helps teachers and students see the relationship of a concept with another, particularly in chronological order and how the pattern occurs and reoccurs in different contexts and events. Learners can visualize cause and effect by placing words or pictures in a sequence presented as a chain or timeline. So here are some examples. So this one is a globalization with underlying positive outcomes that are being placed inside the rectangles downwards. The other one is the cause and effect about culture change. 2 shapes and labeling are being utilized, so students can clearly see the context of how culture change happens. And now we have group and organize. These organizers help teachers and students understand that several ideas or parts are related to a single category. These can also show a central concept and its corresponding attributes. It can be shown in different shapes and forms. So here is an example. So social studies, and the social studies here serve as a single category, and it has its parts, which are the culture, geography, politics, economics, and history. Another example is this pyramid. This is the ancient Egypt's social structure. So as you can see, people are being grouped and organized from the top to bottom in a pyramid according to their status or way of living. And let us move on to compare and contrast. These diagrams are used to identify the similarities and differences between and among concepts. It allows the learners to see what characteristics are shared and exclusive to the concepts that are being compared. So, best example for this is a Venn diagram. So, as you can see, we have realism, constructivism, and behaviorism. Within each circles are their differences, and their similarity is that they are all approaches to learning. Next type is the relate and reason. The idea behind this type of graphic organizer revolves around the use of inductive and deductive thinking patterns. It shows whether a concept is part of a whole or the sum total of its parts. Inductive thinking mainly shares pieces of evidence in support of big ideas, while deductive thinking provides evidence for underlying concepts or topics. So here are examples. For inductive, it mainly shares pieces of evidence in support of big ideas. So we have here the big idea, which is the constructivism, and is surrounded with pieces of evidence in support of its meaning. And here is for deductive. So deductive provides evidence for underlying concepts or topics. So as you can see, the parts or topics under social studies are inside each piece of an oval, provided with a short definition. Next is the identify and imagine. These organizers use various shapes and forms to visualize, represent several concepts or pieces of information. It allows the students to see connections and analyze relationships among concepts. The most common example of this is a concept map. So here is an example of a concept map about integrated curriculum. Okay, and now for the next type, we have estimate and evaluate. This type of organizer shows how to evaluate and explain concepts through visual perspectives. An example for this is a pie graph. So, as you can see, it is the payday budget for households. It is a colorful pie graph, which we can clearly see an estimated percentage budget. And for the last type, which is the combine and create, among others, these organizers allow both teachers and students to construct their own representations. These can be a combination of two or more previously mentioned organizers. They give the teachers and students the freedom to choose organizers that will represent what they have in mind. So teachers and students may have both concept map and Venn diagram, or may create other graphic organizers in their end, such as a mind map like this, and etc. And that is all for the using of graphic organizers, and I will end this presentation with a quote: "The best way to predict the future is to create it," by Peter Drucker.